Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
9 minutes before 8, back to your views of Prince Andrew and the actions taken by the Queen in a moment. But let's pick up on the story we did mention when we had the review of the newspaper. Very powerful story, and we will be bringing more on this through the course of the show. The Chinese so-called spy outed by MI5 targeting the highest levels of government, including former prime ministers. It was revealed last night. Indeed, she was in receipt of an award or an honour from former Prime Minister Theresa May. She spoke with David Cameron, and she also handed hundreds of thousands of pounds to one Labour MP. That would be Barry Gardiner. But let's come back to the security aspect of this and bring into the conversation Conservative MP and Security Minister Damian Hinds. Is there more of an update you can give? Good morning, Minister. Is there more of an update of events that have developed overnight on this?
No, I don't have a new development for you this morning. But I mean, this is an example of our system at work, our world-leading intelligence and security services disrupting attempts to influence, to interfere with our democracy. And this notification process. This is one of the tools at their disposal. I should stress, this is not a story about one particular British politician or one particular political party. It's a story about what others may do to try and influence what happens and how we have to be vigilant. And I'm sure on the back of this notification, our whole political system will have a heightened vigilance. But one can ask, surely she arrived, I understand, in 2019, or came to Downing Street, I should say, in 2019. She got close to Mr Cameron and Mrs May. How was that allowed to happen, Minister? Yeah, those are clearly reasonable questions. I mean, these are, I wonder if they might have given an answer then, Mr Hinds. You have operators who specialise in trying to find ways of getting into influential positions and work in all manner of different ways. I mean, clearly the security service have been aware of this individual for some time and have built up to this point where this notification has been issued. The award you mentioned, of course, has been rescinded. But it wouldn't be right to suppose that this is, as I say, just a story about one political party, or two or three British politicians. This is a story about what can happen at quite a wide level, and why it's important we do have very good safeguards, by the way, in place against proxy donations and that sort of thing. But we're also going to be upgrading and updating our legislation to make sure that it is fit for the modern face of state threats. But will there be a review as to how this was allowed to happen, and indeed why this particular individual was there for a number of years? Yes, we're learning all the time. All the implications, of course, have to be taken into account. And as I say, I mean, we're also, we've currently got the elections bill coming through Parliament to make sure that we are strengthening the protection, the security of our electoral system, and then we're also working on broader legislation about defending against state threats, including in terms of interference and political interference, because of course the world has changed. The world has changed dramatically. Technology changes so much that the states that are involved, the way they may try and be involved, all of these things are changing, and we have to make sure that our approach, our framework, keeps pace. Why would the Chinese be seeking to do this, do you imagine, Minister? We're one of the leading nations of the world. We have an open economy. We have, very important research, academic, business, commercial sectors. Of course, there are not many countries, I should say a number of countries around the world who will take a particular interest in countries like ours. That shouldn't surprise us, but we need to make sure that we have the defences, we have the ways of detecting, and we can disrupt. Okay, on to other matters, and regrettably, no conversation with someone as senior as yourself in the Conservative Party now can take place without talking to you about alleged parties, and another one that has supposedly broken overnight. Downing Street staff drinking alcohol into the early hours at two leaving events the night before Prince Philip's funeral took place. A reaction on that, if you would, Minister? Well, Nick, my reaction, like I'm sure yours and your listeners who've seen that story or heard about it on your programme, my reaction was shock. We all remember that time. We remember that evening. It was a very solemn time in our country. The whole nation shared.
Well, not it would appear inside number 10, Minister.
With her, well, as I say, I was shocked this morning to read that.
What should happen to the staff if were this to be proven? I mean, the level of the party. Just to illustrate it to my listeners, it is reported that there was a DJ. There was one of the staff advisors acting as a DJ. Wilf, the Prime Minister's infant son, his swing in the back garden got broken, and one member of staff was sent to the co-op with a suitcase to buy bottles of wine and effectively smuggle them in. It was a bacchanalian feast the night before we bade farewell to the Duke of Edinburgh. If true, what should happen to the staff?
Yeah, like I say, that came as a shock to me. We have an investigation ongoing, as you know, into events plural, and it's right that it should cover all gatherings and alleged gatherings, including this one, and I gather it will. And it's always been clear that depending on what comes out of that investigation, action can be taken, but we need to know what the outcome
I hear.
Of that investigation is before knowing what, if any, is the right action.
But what is Sue Gray meant to determine? Because we all know a party took place. We know the Prime Minister was in attendance. Not this party, we understand. What does she need to say for you to gain any kind of comfort from the Sue Gray report?
Well, it's not a question of seeking comfort, Nick. It's just a question of
keeping the Prime Minister
full
in place,
picture.
Keeping the PM in place.
No, it's a question of seeking the full picture.
But what don't you know?
And well, we've just had new revelations.
No, about the PM, the one the PM attended for 35 or 25. What don't you know?
Well, I'll tell you. Here's the way I would put it, if I may.
Of course.
I don't see how Sue Gray's investigation can subtract from what we know, but it might add to what we know.
Again, my point. Wait, what?
And I get your point, but I mean, I hope you get mine too.
Yeah, of course.
In a deliberative democracy, this is how we do things. We have a senior, well respected across the spectrum, formidable senior civil servant. It can take the time, still doing it swiftly, but takes the time needed to look into all the aspects, gather the facts, and then make her findings, which will then be, findings will become public, and then there'll be scrutiny in Parliament. Members of Parliament will be able to ask the Prime Minister questions, you and your colleagues in the media, and of course in the wider public. And I think that is the right way to go about things.
Okay. One other story that has broken in the last 24 hours is the Queen's actions taken as regards the Duke of York, and of course we know that he's now been stripped of many military positions and of course some of his medals as well. He's effectively a private citizen. Do we still have to pay for his security, Minister? Well,
as a very long-standing principle, Nick, I and the government, we don't comment on individual.
This is funding.
Security.
Hold on, I'm not asking for details of how many men or women are surrounding him and what colour the Range Rover is. I'm just asking, are we going to continue? I don't want to know how many are involved. I don't expect to know that. But I think I have a right to ask on behalf of the taxpayers, are we still funding security for Prince Andrew?
So our security forces, the police and others, do what they judge is necessary to protect our country, to protect people in it. And as I say, as a matter, it's not an obfuscation. It is a long-standing and I think a correct principle that we don't talk about who and how in particular that
but
is.
We know he does now. Will he, and presumably he will he have to pay it for it himself, or will the taxpayer pay for Prince Andrew's security? Again, I'm not asking for details of the security, just a simple concept. Who's going to pay the money, write the cheque? Me, you as taxpayers, or Prince Andrew privately?
So I know it may.
If you don't know, I'd rather you just said I don't know.
No, it's not a. Well,
So you do know. Good.
It's not a question
So
of.
you can now answer the question. Is it you and me and my listeners and your constituents in East Hampshire, or is it Prince Andrew or the Queen?
I know this is going to come across to you possibly to some listeners like me, obfuscating and avoiding the question, and I suppose maybe even in some ways it is avoiding the question, but only because it is right to say that the police and our wider security forces do what is right and proportionate to protect the people of this country, and we don't publicise exactly what that covers.
I'm grateful for your time. Thank you, Damian Hinds, Security Minister, appearing here on LBC. We're at 1 minute after 8. News is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.